Hey guys, it's Miss Vinian with Progressive Era Video 1. We're going over Learning Targets 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 in this video. So, working conditions, the rise of the labor movement, and discussing the major goals of the progressives and muckrakers. The essential question is, how did progressives try to change life in the U.S. in the late 1800s and early 1900s? So we'll see in the Progressive Era that it is a major time of change that occurred right after the Gilded Age. So try to keep everything in your mind in the timeline, Gilded Age, then Progressive Era. So their goal is to expose the ills of society brought on by the Industrial Revolution and big government. There's a lot of things going with urbanization, which are people moving to the cities, social disorder, political corruption. The progressives want to write new laws, and a lot of their ideas are based on populism, which is a concept we'll go over in class. And then the government can be an instrument of social change. So we know that before the Gilded Age, their idea of government was to not have the government involved with social or economic things. And so the government at this point, they're trying to encourage the government to be involved and to help. Okay, so some goals are: number one, to end laissez-faire so that the government can regulate and control what's going on. End abuses of monopolies. An example of that is the Sherman Antitrust Act. Make government more responsive, so the government is the vehicle to improve society. And limit the power of party bosses, which would be Boss Tweed. All right, so a couple of these people are journalistic voices of progressives. We have investigative journalists. Those are the people that kind of dig in deep and expose corruption and other problems that need to be addressed. And there's magazines back in the day, McClure's, Cosmopolitan, and Collier's, and that's where they would have these investigative reports. Some of the muckrakers, and you'll want to write these down: Upton Sinclair, The Jungle, and we'll read that in class; Jacob Riis, How the Other Half Lives; and Ida Tarbell's History of the Standard Oil Company. They were known as muckrakers. As you can see down here, this term muckraker was coined by Teddy Roosevelt. Someone who's a muckraker, they literally scrape the muck off the ground. And so that's not what these guys did, but they did scrape up like the muck and the bad parts of society and exposed them. Okay, so we are also going to look at some political reforms. So political parties were very corrupt and undemocratic, and so they wanted to diminish the power. So they want to give that power back to the people. So all of these should be vocab words. So you don't have to write them down if you are, if you've got them on your vocab sheet, but I would write them down if you want to remember them. So the secret ballot, which made it so that nobody knew who you're voting for. The direct primary, which nominates candidates. People vote to nominate candidates. The initiative is where people can propose laws, and the referendum is where people can vote yes or no on laws. The recall is if you've done something bad, then the people can call for a re-election. The 17th Amendment, the direct election of senators, so we directly elect the senators and they're not just picked. And then women's suffrage, woo woo, the best amendment, besides the 13th Amendment, of course, is women's suffrage, the 19th Amendment. Women get the right to vote. Yay! Okay, so temperance movement was part of the progressive reforms. So the temperance movement would be a movement to make alcohol illegal. So we have the Women's Christian Temperance Union and the Anti-Saloon League. This is going to enforce these things right here. The temperance movement are going to basically get support for the 18th Amendment, which was prohibition. And prohibition is making alcohol illegal. We'll talk a little bit more about that in class too. And other things that they did, the Mann Act, which stopped white slave traffic, made it illegal to bring women into the U.S. or across state lines for immoral purposes, which would be prostitution. Other things, the social gospel movement. Basically, people start seeing, instead of this whole idea of social Darwinism, it moves from social Darwinism to social gospel. So social responsibility for the well-meaning of others. This is the rise of the YMCA and the rise of the Salvation Army. And basically, like, everybody's on this earth here together, so we should help our brothers and sisters out. Other progressive reforms that took place during this time, the Hepburn Act of 1906 regulated railroads. The Mann-Elkins Act made communications better for railroads. The Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, in 1906, prohibited mislabeling on food, and it's going to be really disgusting, but we're going to talk about it in class a little bit, but made sanitary codes. And then one of the biggest progressives of the time was Robert M. La Follette. He's the U.S. representative and U.S. senator. He was the most progressive at the time. He was Wisconsin governor, and everybody used Wisconsin as a model for progressive reform. So he's like one of the first progressives, and Wisconsin's also one of the first states to allow women to have the right to vote. For today, guys, so I'll see you in class.